I'm going to add a new feature to this class. Imagine that you'd like to have a simple way to retrieve the city, region, and postal code fields for a customer, concatenated together for use when printing address labels, for example. So you'd need information formatted like Los Angeles space CA, California space 90065. In other words, you want a simple way to retrieve a single value that concatenates together several property values. So you have two choices. You could create a read-only property that performs the concatenation and returns the value in the property getter. Or you could create a method that returns the concatenated value as its return value. Is one solution better than the other? Well, no, not really. You'll need to determine for yourself, given the way you and other developers will use your class, which is best. Although there's no reason to provide both alternatives, I'm going to walk you through creating both a read-only property and a method to return this information so you can see how each works. All right, so let's start with the method. So this is going to be a public method. It's going to return a string. And I'm going to call it getLocation. Doesn't take any parameters. And I need to include a return statement. And I'll use the string.format method in order to format the string. I'll use string interpolation. So I'm going to read the value of the city. Add a space. Get the value of region. Add a space. And the postal code. And there's the method. So now I'm going to return this nicely formatted city, region, and postal code string. Okay, now I need to create the property. I'm going to put it right after the postal code property here. So once again, a public string location. And in this case, all I need is a getter. And I'm going to save you the pain of watching me type all this in again and just copy that statement there. Okay, and so that defines the location property. So you can see how similar it is. You can go either way as far as defining a property or using a method. But what do you name them? Well, there's no requirement for this, but most developers use verbs in the names of methods. So that's why I used getLocation. And nouns in the name of properties. So that's why I used just location. Now, it would be kind of confusing if you think about the interface of the class and code that is going to use it. It'd be kind of confusing to have a property named getLocation, because properties expose attributes of the objects, and methods expose actions that the object can take. So the names really should appropriately indicate the intent of the class member. Okay, so that's our fully implemented Customer2 class. Now we need to implement some code to test it out. So I'll come over here to Solution Explorer. I need to go to program.cs. And I'll go to the bottom of the file. And I need to add a test customer2 method. Oops. It would help to include the modifiers. It's a static, and it's going to return void. There we go. All right, now I'm going to instantiate a couple of customer2 objects. I'll reuse those names, cust_a, and I'm going to new it up. But this time, I have to provide the customer ID. Notice that that's the only form of the constructor that I have. If there was multiple overloaded methods for the constructor, IntelliSense here would be letting me know that. So I'm just going to use customer IDs from the old Northwind database. And I'll do a second one. And I'll make this one BOTTM. Okay, so that code is going to exercise the constructor, just to make sure that it properly assigns that customer ID to each of the two different instance objects. And then I'm going to set some properties. So on cust A, I'm going to set the customer name. Oops, let me get my mouse out of the way. And this will be Maria Anders. And I'll also update the location. Okay, see that I have two different overloaded versions. So I can hit the up and down arrows to see them. And I can see which parameters for the one I want to use I need to provide. So I don't need to remember that update location requires these parameters in the order of city, region, postal code, and country, if I include country. Okay, so Maria lives in New York. Use the abbreviation. And one of the zip codes is 10012. And that's all the parameters I'm going to provide. Okay, so I'm using that particular form of the update location. And here I can see I accidentally used a colon again instead of a semicolon. And then I'm going to write out some information about this customer. And customer A dot get location. So I'm using the method form of that. Doesn't take any parameters. So that'll write out that location string. And I'll also write out the country. This is to test out to make sure that our setting the default country works. Okay, now I'm going to supply information for a second customer, that customer B. Set the customer name to Patricio Simpson. And out of respect for Patricio, I'll proper case the name. And then I'll again use the update location. But this time I'm going to use the second overloaded version and provide the country as well. Because Patricio is from Toronto, Ontario. Postal code is M9W1J1. And country is Canada. Okay, so there we have the second customer set up. I'm again going to retrieve information, getting the location. This time using that property. And the country. And this time it should not be the default United States. Okay, so that pretty much exercises all of the features of the class. We could certainly go further. And now I need to uncomment this line here so that it appears in our menu. And I'll save that file and press F5 to test the application. I'm going to try the customer 2 class, so press C. And there you can see New York, New York, 10012. The USA correctly got set as the default. Toronto, Ontario, M9W1J1 in Canada. Okay, I'm going to leave that running for a second and come back over to Visual Studio. And I'll go back down to the test customer 2 procedure. I'm going to set a breakpoint here so that we can take a look at the variables at the end of executing that method. Now I'll come back over to the console window. I'll press any key to continue and hit C one more time. All right, so all of the work has been done. All the objects have been created, properties set, methods called, and so forth. But we can stop here in order to examine what we ended up with. So I'm going to look at the customer B object. I'll do it up here. It doesn't matter where I do it. And hover over it and expand that. So this provides an inspector displaying all of the value of the different properties. So you can see my fields are set to those values. And then the properties are all correctly set as well. So it looks like this class is working pretty well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and continue. And of course, I get the same results.